On February 4th, 2024, Taylor Swift stood on stage holding her 13th Grammy, her lucky number 13, and announced to the world that she had a new album just around the corner. Immediately, the vibes were off. Maybe it was the timing, the setting, or the title, but mostly it was the surprise 14th Grammy that she won that really left a sour taste in my mouth. Album of the year. It wasn't supposed to be her year. The odds-on favorite, and deservingly so, was SZA and SOS. But Olivia Rodrigo's Guts and Boy Genius's Records were also seen in that upper tier possible winners. Hell, if you wanted to make a dark horse pick, Lana's album had way more traction than Taylor's did. Very few people had Taylor's Midnights in that upper tier, a true contender, and yet there she was, having her cake and eating it too in front of the entire world. It shouldn't have been her year, but when you're on top, and Taylor Swift is obviously on top, every year is yours if you want it. You don't even have to put in that much effort. By all accounts, outside of commercially, Midnights was a step back artistically from the level that Taylor was playing at with her previous two albums, Evermore and Folklore. It was returned to more of her pop star self, only this time with far worse production. And yes, that's not necessarily her fault. And Jack, you're on my list too, buddy. She's still listening to this production, signing off on it, and then writing increasingly lazier and lazier songwriting to match it. It's not a bad album. It's just an incredibly average one. A solid 6 or 7 out of 10, neutral. It was not the caliber of album that deserved to break Stevie Wonder's record for most albums of the year. And I know I sound like a hater. I am. But I'm fair. So I waited for the Tortured Poets department to come out, and like a good ally, I sat my ass down and listened. If Midnights was a step back, the Tortured Poets department is cartoonishly slipping on a banana peel and falling on your ass. I thought the previous production was just bland. This is offensive. Everything is so overproduced and yet extremely expensive, so it sounds like a contemporary Christian hit from 2009. It almost always conflicts with Taylor's vocals, and at times it completely distracts you from what she's trying to say. This isn't entirely a bad thing because Taylor's songwriting on this album isn't just lazy, it doesn't even make sense half the time, because Taylor has this insatiable desire to cram a rhyme in every other word. This forces her to spout off nonsense at times, all just to save these rhymes. I'm dreaming of cracking rocks, throwing my life to the wolves, or the ocean rocks. She rhymed rock with rock. While the Tortured Poets department is a bad album, it's also a very entertaining one. I genuinely liked 4 or 5 of the songs, loved one even, but the other 50 songs on the album were a bit much. It did make 2 things very clear. Jack and Taylor need to take a long separation from their partnership, and Taylor has no one in her artistic life that can tell her no. You see, we used to have these things called critics. You would know their names like Roger Ebert and Lester Bangs, and they would get paid to care way too much about silly little things like art, music, and movies, and then share their opinions about it to us, the audience, so that we would have an expert opinion on what to spend our hard-earned cash and limited time on. Their opinions were not gospel, and they were not always right, but they were a guiding light, spotlighting the good and the bad in pop culture. This went on for thousands of years, right until a movie called The Avengers came out. Then, we didn't need them anymore. The Avengers is not a bad movie, nor was it torn apart by the critics. But why would you listen to those bozos when Marvel's got a cool graphic with movies planned out until 2032? If they keep putting out consistently slightly above average, okay to good level movies, I, the audience member, do not need the critic's stamp of approval to justify the cost. It's a guarantee. It doesn't matter what they say, a Marvel film is going to make $1 billion at the box office. Yet, despite this success, a certain attitude was being fostered in the MCU fan base. It's us versus them. A Marvel movie on a technical level is an expensively made summer blockbuster. Always okay, sometimes good, never truly awful. Definition of a C+. The big board with all the movies on it didn't change them into being better movies. It just gave them an illusion of importance because they were all connected and they were building up to one big thing. It's just a marketing ploy. If that illusion got broken, say by some snob working for a stuffy newspaper, then people might not fork out billions of dollars. So they influenced publications, manipulated some algorithms, and did everything they could to victimize themselves and their fans against anyone who would dare mildly criticize the largest thing in the world. It turns out, though, we were more than willing to keep that illusion going ourselves. We wanted to see the big thing happen. What's even crazier is that they knocked it out of the park. Infinity War and Endgame are still two of the best movie-going experiences of my life. In an ironic twist of fate, the MCU damaged the critics' standing in the pop culture ecosystem, and they had no reason to worry. Geez, I sure hope this doesn't have a long-lasting effect on how we consume media going forward. Wait, an artist who victimizes themselves and their fan base against any sort of criticism, no matter how mild, who built a near decades worth of interwoven, separate yet all connected projects that built up into a massive two-part conclusion that unites both the fans and the critics in agreement that, wow, that's pretty much the absolute pinnacle of your ability as an artist. And yes, Taylor Swift and the Marvel Cinematic Universe have had the exact same career arc, right down to the critic crusade. I'll give her credit. She raised the game big time. Swifties don't play. They attack. They will kill, or at least imply they will, for their bestie. Taylor and Marvel have disrupted the natural order because it benefited them financially. And ultimately, it's their own fans that are going to lose out. Let me explain. Chicken and broccoli is a fine meal. Nearly always good, sometimes great, but almost never truly awful. If you said to me, let's have chicken and broccoli for dinner tonight, I'd be all for it. If we had it for leftovers the next night, I might be a little less excited, but I wouldn't complain. But if I saw you cooking up some chicken and broccoli on the third night, when I know you can cook steak, I'd have to politely tell you I was getting some takeout. Stop accepting chicken and broccoli served on 38 different colored plates or with a weird English twist on it that no one likes, and start demanding a fucking steak. You deserve better. You take the Anthony Bourdains out of the world and the chefs are just going to start cooking whatever is easiest for them. The burden of demanding improvement is going to fall onto the fans. But if you've convinced them that you're their best friend, or that no one takes them seriously for enjoying your product, then suddenly you have no one holding you accountable, and therefore no reason to improve. It used to be that an artist's fans, by design, were their biggest critics. They know the work better than anyone else, and they expect nothing but the best from the artist that they love, and were pretty vocal when those expectations were not met. Just ask Bob Dylan. Blonde on Blonde and Blood on the Tracks couldn't build up enough good grace to survive a few bad albums. It is so hard to stay on top, but it's even harder to get back there once you lose your spot. You can't get lazy. You have to keep putting in the work. Marvel, stop making 6-episode TV shows that don't mean anything. Taylor, stop working with Jack Antonoff. Prove me and the rest of the haters wrong by going back to the level of work that we've seen you do. Knock it out of the park with the X-Men. Go make that well-produced, mature country album that we all know you have in you, Taylor Swift. Stop wasting my time with chicken and broccoli. We want steak.